This is the Middle Cedar geodesign application. This is one of several geodesign applications we have developed to allow stakeholders and other users to make changes to landscapes in varying ways. One of our other applications allows users to make changes to wetlands, lakes, and row cropping practices in the LeSueur watershed in Minnesota to examine nitrate loading at a basin outlet. This application for the Middle Cedar watershed and some of its sub-watersheds in Iowa, as well as a similar application for the 7 Mile Creek watershed near St. Peter, Minnesota, allow users to explore the economic and environmental impacts of agricultural practice change on the landscape. What we see here is one of the designs drawn for Miller Creek within Middle Cedar in Iowa. We see some changes to, I believe, no-till around some of the creek and forest here. We also have some prairie and cover crop areas. And at the bottom of our screen, we're on the results tab right now, we can see nitrates, phosphorus, sediment profit in bar chart form, indicating the changes from the base design, the first column, to this design. So we see reduction in nitrates, phosphorus, and sediment, as well as a reduction in profit, and an acreage by practice table that lets us see just how this landscape has been divided up from base corn and soy to cover crop, conservation tillage, and other practices. So let's go ahead and get started with our own design. I'm going to refresh the application. The first thing we need to do is pick a group name and a watershed. We have 4 watersheds available within Middle Cedar. I'm going to stick with Miller Creek for today. Click OK. Like most web applications, web mapping applications, some of the controls are fairly standard. We can click and drag to pan our map. We have zoom controls in the upper left, which we can also use. One thing to note is this application, while it will work on smaller screen devices such as an iPad or Surface tablet, does perform best at larger screen sizes in modern web browsers. So we suggest Chrome at the largest screen size you can make use of. So with the application started and our group name picked, you'll notice we start out on the Draw tab. In the lower right-hand corner, we can open up Design Acreage, and we'll see that Design Acreage table that we saw in the Results tab from before. We see in Miller Creek we've got about 35,000 acres in base corn and soy, and that's the area we can actually affect change on. So we can't change parking lots, forests, small lakes, and so on, but we do have about 35,000 acres currently in corn and soy where we can make changes. If we look up a little bit, we'll expand the Layers section. Here we have 6 different options, and this will vary by application. These are sliders, control the transparency of the layer, so we can turn up agricultural profit. And these darker green areas represent areas of high agricultural profit when in corn and soy, lighter areas representing lower profit. Water is another useful layer. Especially in this area, there are a lot of small water features, be they creeks, ditches, and whatnot, and turning up the water layer just helps to be able to easily identify those features and areas of sensitivity. I'm going to turn agricultural profit back down and flip up to the drawing tools area. Here we've got 12 different agricultural practice options, base being base corn and soy, and these other options will vary by application and maybe even time, so you'll want to consult the legend for the application you're using to understand what each practice actually is. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on an area within our map around these various water features and forest, and I'm going to go ahead and start drawing practice change. I assume it's a little more sensitive in here, so I'm going to pick one of our other practices, maybe this no-till cover crop practice. I can see drawing is set to areas, so I'm just going to click and drag out an area kind of around these features. And you'll notice I didn't have to draw too carefully. The application knows what areas can and cannot be changed. So water features, roads, parking lots, and so on have been clipped out. So only those areas I can actually change to no-till cover crop are now highlighted. We have some other options available in the drawing dropdown. We see lines, click points, and lines freehand. I'm going to go with lines freehand and switch to grassed waterway. This is a handy way to just click and drag out along something like a waterway And the line will be buffered for us. We can see right below where the drawing drop-down is a buffer in feet set to 50 feet by default. So on either side of the line we just drew, there is a 50-foot buffer added, so 100 feet total strip around the line we've just drawn has been added. If you're interested in buffering all water, we have an option here to buffer all water, or most of the water I should say, in Middle Cedar by 50 feet. Some of the features will get missed, but it's going to do a good job of covering a lot of those water features. So let's go ahead with grassed waterways still selected and click Buffer Water 50 feet. This will take a couple of seconds to process, and you can see most of the water features, at least those linear features, now have 50-foot buffers around them. One of the other drawing options, lines click points. If you wanted to buffer, say, a roadway with a wider buffer, remember you can't draw on a roadway itself, but you could add a buffer around those, and lines click points is just going to let you click a series of points and form straight lines between those. Our fourth option under drawing is sections. Let's say you want to make a change to a larger area at once. You can do that with sections. You'll see when we changed over to sections, we have white lines around our various sections. I'm going to go ahead and pick a different practice. Let's say reduced fertilizer cover crop, and make a change to this section down here just by clicking once in the section. I can see that section is now changed to reduced fertilizer cover crop, and it's important to note that as you're drawing, anything you've previously drawn will be overwritten. But if you wanted to undo your change, you can undo your last action. Go ahead and click Undo over to the right, and you'll see we're back to where we were. Once you've made changes to the landscape and want to try out your design, you can open up the Save and Load Design section and pick a design name. Grassed waterways and no-till cover crop, and click Save Design. This is going to take probably about 10 seconds to process as the changes you've made are sent over to the server and that design processed. And we can see it's back already. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on our map. And at the bottom, as we saw before, we've got columns for nitrates. We see actually a little bit of an increase in nitrates, but a reduction in phosphorus, sediment, and profit. And here's that acreage by practice table again, breaking down our changes. Once we have more than one design saved, we can come over to the Compare tab, and I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on these maps. On the Compare tab, we can pick up to 3 designs to compare. So I'm going to choose the design we just saved, and a couple of other designs from earlier today. So our standard bar charts now have 4 columns, the first column being the base model, and if you look over to the right, you can see a legend for the columns. So using these, we can do a side-by-side comparison of how everything performed. And let's say we want to go back and make some changes. This third design economically performed a little better, so conservation tillage and what I assume is grassed waterways. We can go back to the Draw tab. And when you get back to the Draw tab, note that you can just keep designing from right where you left off, or if you want to load a design, like what we're doing now, I'm going to choose this design saved earlier and click Load Design. And once that's up, we can see we've loaded this previously saved design, and using our drawing tools, we can just continue to make changes, save that design, test the results, and iterate as we need to.